like diamonds in the grand ballroom, and the air was thick with the scent of wealth and privilege. I stood at the edge of the extravagant wedding hall, my dress a simple navy blue, modest yet elegant, completely out of place among the sea of designer gowns and expensive jewelry. My parents, dressed in their finest, were the stars of the evening, basking in the attention of the rich and powerful. Then it happened. "Ladies and gentlemen," my mother's voice rang through the microphone, her eyes glinting with something cruel. "We want to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special to us." I tensed, already sensing what was coming. My father stepped beside her, a scowl settling over his sharp features. "Our daughter, Ivy," he announced, gesturing toward me. Heads turned, whispers began. Or should we say, the family embarrassment. Laughter rippled through the guests. My chest tightened. "She refuses to accept our ways, our status," my mother continued, feigning disappointment. "Imagine everyone our daughter, working for someone else. A mere employee in a company instead of being part of this family's empire." More laughter. My father smirked. "We tried to give her a good life, but she turned her back on us. Look at her, standing there in that cheap dress, when she could be among the elite." The heat of shame crept up my face, but I forced myself to stay still, to not show the devastation ripping through me. I had known they disapproved of my choices, but this? Publicly tearing me apart like I was nothing? Then, an unmistakable voice sliced through the mockery. "That's enough." Silence. I turned, and there he was, Damon Hayes, my boss, a self-made millionaire who commanded respect with his mere presence. He stepped forward, his piercing gray eyes locked on my father. "Ivy is more valuable than all of you combined," Damon said, his voice even but lethal. "And if anyone here doubts that, I'd be happy to enlighten them." The entire room held its breath. My father's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Damon smirked, unbothered. "The man who actually recognizes talent when he sees it. Unlike you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother stepped forward, her fake concern melting into frustration. "Mr. Hayes, this is a family matter. You don't need to interfere." "That's where you're wrong," Damon countered. "Ivy is my top executive. She's intelligent, driven, and unlike most people here, she doesn't rely on privilege to succeed." My heart thundered in my chest. Damon wasn't just defending me, he was claiming my worth in front of all these people. My father sneered. "Oh, please. She's just an employee." "A damn good one," Damon interrupted sharply. "And in case you didn't know, I just promoted her to vice president of my company." My mother gasped. My father visibly staggered. The crowd erupted in murmurs. "You're lying," my father spat. "She's not capable of that." Damon chuckled darkly. "Then maybe you should ask the stockholders, considering her strategies have increased our profits by 30% in the last quarter alone." The weight of the moment crushed my parents. Their arrogance, their cruelty, exposed. My father's jaw clenched, his humiliation evident. Damon turned to me, his expression softening. "Ivy, you don't need their approval. You never did." I swallowed hard, emotions warring inside me. Gratitude, vindication, but also sadness. Because even now, I knew my parents would never truly change. "Let's go," Damon said, offering me his arm. And for the first time in my life, I walked away from them without looking back. But this wasn't over. Not yet. The night air was cool against my burning skin as Damon led me outside the grand wedding venue. My heart still hammered in my chest, the echoes of laughter and whispers trailing behind me. The humiliation was raw, but something else burned beneath it. Something stronger. Anger. For years, I had tried to prove my worth to my parents. I had hoped, begged in my silence, that they would see me for who I was, not for what they wanted me to be. But tonight, they had crossed a line I could never forgive. Damon's grip on my wrist loosened as we stepped onto the curb. A sleek black car pulled up, the driver already waiting to open the door. "You okay?" His voice was calm, but I could hear the quiet storm beneath it. I turned to face him, And for the first time, I truly saw the weight of his words back there. Damon Hayes, my boss, my mentor, had stood up for me when my own blood had turned against me. And not just in a simple defense. He had crushed them, annihilated their arrogance with cold, undeniable facts. I will be, I answered, squaring my shoulders. Thank you for what you did in there. His lips quirked into a smirk. You deserve better than that circus. I exhaled, my anger simmering but controlled. They'll never change. You don't need them to, Damon said simply. You're more powerful than you think. His words settled deep into my bones. For so long, I had let my parents' opinions define me, their approval dictate my worth. But tonight was proof I was capable of standing on my own. And now, it was time to show them exactly what they had lost. The following Monday, I walked into my office, my heels clicking against the marble floor with new purpose. The news had already spread like wildfire. My public humiliation had become the talk of the elite circles. But what they didn't know, I wasn't broken. I was just getting started. I sat at my desk, flipping through reports when my assistant, Lauren, rushed in. You need to see this, she said breathlessly, handing me a tablet. I took it and froze. A headline blazed across the screen. Wealthy businessman disowns daughter at wedding, but her boss leaves everyone speechless. I scrolled through the article. It detailed everything. My parents' public disgrace, my position in Damon's company, and how their cruel stunt had backfired spectacularly. The comments were brutal. What kind of parents humiliate their own daughter for working hard? She's better off without them. Damon Hayes really said, hold my champagne and destroy them. A slow smirk tugged at my lips. It was satisfying, but I wasn't about to let this be the only victory. I picked up my phone and dialed. Mr. Donovan, I said smoothly when my lawyer answered. I'd like to move forward with the purchase. A pause. Then, you're sure? Positive. It was time for the final blow. Later that evening, I walked into the same mansion I had once called home. My parents were waiting, their expressions mixed with surprise and barely contained fury. You have some nerve showing up here, my father sneered. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say, I replied, my voice unwavering. My mother folded her arms. If this is about an apology. I laughed, shaking my head. Oh no. I have no expectations of that. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. My father hesitated before opening it. His eyes darted over the pages, and then, what is this? His voice was sharp, laced with unease. A contract, I said coolly. For this house. Silence. My mother's face paled. You're lying. I leaned back. You see, while you were too busy playing the role of social elites, your finances were crumbling. Your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. And this mansion? It was up for grabs. So I bought it. My father's hand clenched into a fist, his face a shade of red I had never seen before. You. I own this house now. I cut him off, my voice as sharp as a blade. And you have a week to vacate. The power shift was so sudden, so absolute, that for the first time, my parents looked small, defeated. My mother shook her head in disbelief. You would do this to your own parents? You did it to yourself, I said coldly. When you decided I was never enough for you. Damon had been right. I didn't need them. A week later, as I stood outside my new home, their former home, I expected to feel nothing but satisfaction. And I did. But I also felt something unexpected. Peace. I had spent so long trying to gain my parents' approval, to make them proud. But in the end, I had found my own worth, and I was thriving despite them. As I turned, I saw Damon leaning against his car, watching me with an amused expression. That was brutal, he commented. They had it coming, I said simply. A pause. Then, do you regret it? I thought about it for a moment before shaking my head. No. Because for the first time in my life, I finally feel free. Damon nodded, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't just surviving. I was winning. The mansion was eerily quiet now. No laughter from my mother's high society parties. No arrogant footsteps of my father parading through the halls. Just silence. And yet, as I stood in the grand foyer, the place where I had once felt invisible, I realized something. Winning felt good, but it didn't erase the scars. I exhaled slowly, placing my hand on the marble staircase railing. The memories of my childhood, of always being pushed aside, of never being good enough, still clung to these walls like shadows. Damon had warned me. Power doesn't heal wounds, Ivy. Only you can do that. But maybe. I wasn't ready to heal just yet. Just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I debated ignoring it, but something in my gut told me to answer. Hello. A sharp inhale. Then a voice I hadn't expected. Ivy. My mother. I nearly hung up. Nearly threw the phone across the room. But curiosity, and something deeper, kept me frozen. You win, she whispered. The words should have felt satisfying, but instead, they felt empty. She exhaled shakily. Your father is breaking down. Everything he built gone. We don't have anywhere to go. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. She was playing the victim now. Why are you calling me? I asked, my voice colder than I expected. A pause. Then a confession I never saw coming. Because I don't know what to do without you. For the first time in my life, my mother's voice lacked its usual sharpness. She sounded lost, like she knew, deep down, they had done this to themselves. I swallowed hard, my throat thick with conflicting emotions. I had dreamed of this moment, of seeing them crumble. But now that it was happening, it didn't bring me joy, because I was nothing like them. The next morning, I found myself pacing in my office. Damon leaned against my desk, watching me with that unreadable expression of his. You're thinking about helping them, he guessed. I ran a hand through my hair. I don't know. He tilted his head slightly. Ivy, they humiliated you in front of hundreds of people. They would have let you drown if the roles were reversed. I let out a humorless chuckle. Oh, I know. And, believe me, part of me wants to leave them exactly where they are. Damon studied me for a moment before sighing. But if I let them suffer without at least giving them a choice to change, then I become them. I met his gaze. And I refuse to be like them. Damon smirked. You really are something else, Ivy. I rolled my eyes. So, I've been told. I met my parents at a quiet cafe, far away from their usual lavish haunts. My father looked thinner. His usual air of superiority had faded, replaced by quiet resentment. My mother, on the other hand, looked at me with something bordering on regret. I placed a folder on the table. I'm offering you a deal. My father scoffed. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I ignored him. Inside this folder are papers for a modest house and a financial plan to get back on your feet. My mother looked at it like it might explode. What's the catch? I leaned forward. You disappear from my life. No more control. No more guilt trips. No more treating me like a disgrace. You take this, and we go our separate ways. Silence. I could see the war in their eyes. My father's pride was battling his reality. My mother's selfishness was warring with her desperation. And then, after what felt like forever, my mother nodded. We'll take it. My father clenched his jaw, but he said nothing. That was it. The final moment. The end of the war. I stood up. Goodbye, Mom. Dad. And this time, I walked away for good. Weeks passed, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. No more trying to please people who would never be satisfied. No more chasing validation. One evening, Damon and I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights. So, he said, sipping his drink, what's next for Ivy Monroe? I smiled. Whatever the hell I want. He chuckled. That's what I like to hear. I turned to him, my heart light. You know, I spent years thinking I needed their love to be whole. But now, I realized I had everything I needed inside me all along. Damon raised his glass. To that, Ivy. I clinked my glass against his. And as I looked out at the city, The world that was now fully mine. I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my past slowly lifted. My parents had taken the offer and vanished from my life. I had expected guilt to creep in, but instead, I felt relief. For the first time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for their next act of cruelty. And with that newfound freedom, I threw myself into my work. I spent long hours at the office, refining strategies, pushing our company forward. Under my leadership, our latest business expansion had outperformed expectations. Investors were beyond pleased. Even Damon, who rarely praised anyone, had smirked at me and said, "You're making me look bad, Ivy." It felt good, but something still lingered in the back of my mind. A question that I had yet to answer. Who was I, now that I no longer needed to prove anything to anyone? One evening, I left the office late, deciding to walk instead of taking my car. I needed air, time to clear my mind. That's when I saw her. A woman, shivering on a bench near a convenience store, clutching a worn-out coat around her shoulders. She looked exhausted, defeated, like life had been relentless in breaking her down. Something about her reminded me of myself. I hesitated for only a moment before walking up to her. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. Her wary eyes met mine. "I'm fine," she lied. I knew that look. Pride mixed with desperation. Wordlessly, I pulled out my wallet and handed her a few $100 bills. "Get a warm meal. A place to stay." She looked at the money, then back at me. "Why?" I smiled. "Because sometimes people just need a little help." Tears welled up in her eyes as she took the money with shaking hands. "Thank you." As I walked away, I realized something. This, helping people, lifting others up instead of tearing them down, was who I was meant to be. Not the daughter of arrogant socialites. Not just an employee in a company, but someone who made a difference. The next morning, I walked into Damon's office with an idea burning in my mind. "We need to start a foundation," I said, dropping a file onto his desk. He raised an eyebrow. "A foundation?" "To help people who are trying to rebuild their lives," I explained. "People who don't have rich parents to fall back on. People who just need one opportunity to change everything." Damon leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You really are something else, Ivy." I smirked. "So I've been told." He chuckled, flipping through the proposal. Then, after a moment, he nodded. "Let's do it." Just like that, I had taken another step toward becoming someone I was proud of. One evening, as I was leaving work, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. My mother. I let it ring. I had no interest in reopening that door, but something in my gut told me to pick up. I sighed and answered. "Hello." There was silence on the other end. Then a quiet, hesitant voice. "I just wanted to say that I saw what you did." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The foundation. Helping people. It's all over the news." I stayed silent. For the first time, there was no cruelty in her voice. No condescension. Just something I had never heard from her before. Respect. "I don't expect you to forgive us," she said. "But I needed you to know. I'm proud of you." A lump formed in my throat. For years, I had craved those words. But now, I didn't need them. Still, I let them sit between us, a fragile bridge where there had once been nothing but wreckage. After a pause, I spoke. "Goodbye, Mom." And this time, there was no anger, no bitterness, just peace. Months passed, and the foundation took off faster than I could have imagined. We helped hundreds of people get back on their feet, job training, housing assistance, financial guidance. One afternoon, as I was finalizing reports in my office, Damon walked in, leaning against my desk like he always did. "You've built something incredible," he said. I smiled. "It's just the beginning." He smirked. "So, what's next for Ivy Monroe?" I leaned back in my chair, feeling lighter than I had in years. Whatever the hell I want. And for the first time, I knew exactly who I was. Not my parents' failure. Not a disgrace. But a woman who had built her own empire from the